welcome to this edition of the Why I Like Mike podcast. I'm your host, Mason Gordon, and I'm once again joined by Rushville's Mayor, Mike Pavey. How you doing, Mike?
Good. How you doing, Mason?
Doing wonderful. So far on the show, if you this is the first time you've listened to the podcast, every week I sit down with Rushville's Mayor, Mike Pavey, and we discuss the issues that are facing the city of Rushville, what his administration is doing to solve those issues, and why you should support him in the May Republican primary. So far in our episodes, we've had the opportunity to meet a couple of our city councilman candidates that are running beside Mayor. We've had the opportunity to hear the state of the city and talk about why Mayor Pavey is seeking his third term for the city of Rushville. And today we're going to talk about some of the current stances of projects in the city and what the mayor has in store for his third term and how he can see some of those projects come to fruition. So, Mayor, I think we've talked a lot about the downtown and how impressive it is to drive downtown and notice the improvements. But there's certainly, I think, some things around town that maybe are easy to notice as well. Some things that maybe we can still improve upon, and one of those would be now Walmart's sitting empty. So talk to us a little bit about maybe how retail has changed and why maybe Walmart is no longer there, and what's currently happening to try to get something in that space.
Okay. A lot of our focus has been on downtown because if you look at other communities that whether they're bigger than Rushville or not, most of them focus on having a community space, and most people consider the community space as downtown. So we have invested a lot of time and effort there because we think that is the backbone of the community. Now, when it comes to retail and Walmart, I wish I could sit here and as in one election we had the two guys from Indianapolis that met the mayor candidate in Shelbyville and whatever ever ended up of that. But I don't think in good conscience I can sit there and say that. It is a challenge, and I think it's going to continue to be a challenge. And the reason why is in the retail world, it is very clear and it's been very well communicated that in the next 5 years, 25% of all big box retailers will close their brick and mortar locations. And when you look at a community the size of Rushville, we are probably the ideal candidate when someone is cutting back on how to cut back. And another component that is one that I don't think many people really have factored in, but is the reality of our situation, is Amazon and those internet companies that are catering now to quick delivery, quick response. Those are having an effect on retail. So we will end up having to deal with the exact type of retailer for the exact community we live in. And another piece that is more challenging is Rushville is a community that's under 10,000 people. And that is usually your cutoff line between when they're interested and not. I can tell you that I think that we know tons about our retail. Our consultant knows tons about our retail. The owner of the Walmart Plaza has been great to work with, and he is working really hard. So there's a lot of effort being put in out there, but I don't think it's ethical to say, oh, this is going to happen, because right now there isn't anything set in stone. And I think it would be disingenuous or just purely political if someone said, oh, I can make this happen, because I can tell you I think I'm as well versed in it as I possibly can be, and I don't feel comfortable.
You mentioned the consultant that you hired to study the retail environment in the city. I remember looking at that data and seeing a lot of very interesting things. I think a lot of signs that there's plenty of room for business in Rushville. Do you want to talk a little bit about maybe the data that you got back from the consultant and what that could possibly mean in trying to sell the city to some of those businesses?
Yeah, I think that one of the things that was probably a negative to Rushville is I think Rushville has grown used to traveling to do its retail, and in the retail world that's called leakage. So it is, with modern technology, it's pretty easy to follow where your leakage is, and my guess is they won't admit to it, but we've kind of got them close to admitting it, is the reason why the Rushville D-Series Walmart store closes is because they know that there's leakage, and they know that it's going to their superstores that surround us.
Mm-hmm.
So their feeling is if we close it down, we're going to get their business. And I think the modern day consumer is just a much more mobile. I have a lot of people who will talk to me all the time about, man, we need this, we need this, we need this. And they'll also talk about on Saturday or Sunday they're going to Costco or
Mm-hmm.
Sam's Club and they're going to go stock up on a week's worth of supplies. And so understanding that is another thing, that when a person wants better retail, the fact that they're going somewhere else for that retail doesn't usually help your local market. And unless your retailer is able to find it specifically where they're going and can bring that component back to your community, they're never going to invest in the community until they think they're going to get that consumer if they locate there. So those are some things I think we face realistically. And then, like I say, again, the main factor we're going to face is the fact that the internet is accessible. A kid can pick up a phone and order a truckload of supplies from Amazon or wherever if they want to, and that's just something, that's the new world of commerce.
Besides retail, you hear lots of different ideas for the Walmart space. I mean, is there any other consideration to maybe some alternative uses for that building?
I've heard a lot of conversation. We get a lot of suggestions on what it should be, but ultimately it is privately owned, and that person has to decide that that's a good investment and will pay the bills for them before they're going to convert it over to something different. Right now, I think that he is of the opinion that he would like to continue to investigate retail further before he considers something else.
It's hard to believe that it was 2016, so 3 years ago when we were named a stellar community. Obviously, lots of improvement downtown is because of Stellar. Maybe walk us through the projects that were presented that day in July that we applied or presented to be a stellar community, and maybe the progression of those projects and where they currently stand.
Okay. If we look at, let's say, the Durbin and the campaign quarters, those or the Windsor, I guess, are virtually complete. The Boys and Girls Club, they're renting presently, and I think in the end of May, the Durbin will be complete and they will phase in their rental process. The Morgan Street Trail, that is in design, and so it will start construction next summer. When you look at the streetscape on Main Street, it is significantly complete. I think they're looking at one like an ADA issue, but as soon as that's taken care of, that project wraps up. The owner-occupied rehab, that project is completed. Mm-hmm. When you look at probably the ones that get the most conversation are going to be the Gateway and then the Overlook. Those are the areas that would be the parking lot beside the BP and the area that we used to be the Flat Rock Grill. Those are being designed right now, and there have been some changes to those areas, in that at one point there was a two-story building in the Overlook. But what we decided to do, and it came about at about the same time that Walmart decided that they were going to close, we decided that we didn't want to put more retail into the market. So what we did was we said, let's not put the two-story building there. Let's focus more on a park concept and an open concept, and let's make the investment that would have been in that two-story building down in the Taft building. And that building there is in the early stages of design. So all the projects are still moving. They're all still moving really at the schedule we thought they would, but some of those changes in the scope have caused a little bit of confusion, I would say, with the general public. And hopefully here in the next few weeks we'll be able to get some new sketches out to show people exactly what those projects will look like.
So the Flat Rock Grill came down to make room for the Overlook building that you had referenced, and obviously that, as you mentioned, that plan has changed. So what exactly What exactly will that space, and I know you said plans are in the works, but what's the idea behind what that space is going to look like and offer to the community?
It will have like a splash pad concept, and the splash pad will, the water that comes off the splash pad will run through like a meandering little creek that kids can play in. Then the water will get down to the bottom and it will recirculate back up. It will also have some large play equipment that kids can interact with. It'll have swings, some trails, some sitting areas to sit up on the higher ground and look down at the Riverside Park. So, like I say, it's not many of the outside features have changed much. We just decided that instead of investing in the two-story building and having what we felt might be some retail space that was unoccupied, what we chose to do was keep the building that sits there as Gettinger Meats and build around it, and kind of basically, I guess, preserve more of the buildings that are in that area, and then focus, instead of focusing on new square footage, focus on rehabbing some existing square footage we have in the community. And right now that area there is the area we're looking for a launch space, an entrepreneur space on the second floor, and then the first floor really have targeted a microbrewery for the first floor.
And the market for or I guess the idea around the microbrewery kind of came out of the data that we talked about earlier, the consultant data. We noticed the leakage for.
It's come out of a lot of different things. It's come out of the comprehensive plan. It's come out of polling. It's come out of leakage. Mm-hmm. So all of those point to the fact that we have a market, and probably maybe the most determining thing is we have people interested in talking about a microbrewery in Rushville. So it doesn't matter what data you have if you don't have somebody who's willing to come in and put the product together.
And you mentioned the entrepreneurial kind of launch space. What exactly does that mean?
What that is basically an open concept where people can come, and what they talk about is they can collide. Two people can come in, 3, 4. Let's say, for example, we're going to talk to Elton. And let's say Elton was in a finance company and he's thinking about starting a business. He can go down in the space, get internet, conference areas. He just wants to do maybe experiment on a business, but really doesn't want to do it in his home. So he goes down, and let's say another person's down there and they're start thinking about doing the same thing, but theirs is marketing, or somebody's down there with computer programming, and they sit around and have conversations, and those conversations are the collisions. They're people's ideas connecting, and he says, well, I'm thinking about doing this. Could you build my website for me? And that person says, sure. He says, I've gone from using the general public, the general open space, to I need a 10 by 10 room that can become my office. That if people need to meet, I can go in there, shut the door. I need to have a conference. I can go over here and use a conference space. And so he slowly works from an idea to somewhat of a concept, from the concept being a small one-person operation, and then there are different size rentable spaces, and he can work his way to where he goes from the concept all the way to, now I need a building bigger than is housed in here, and now I can go out and buy a building or build a building in the community to house this idea that started from this launch location.
So you mentioned that a lot of the Stellar projects are beginning to wrap up. Obviously, some not so much. Mm-hmm. At this point, is the Stellar process kind of on autopilot, and what kind of effect does this upcoming election have on the future of the Stellar projects?
Well, to an administration that knows what's going on, it is on autopilot. I mean, there are still decisions we're making, some nuances of what type of delivery system we're using to bring the Taft building on board. But to a new administration may just say, I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. We just don't think it's a good idea, or heard enough complaints on the street that we think that that's just something we should hold on. And the problem is, and it's the problem that I express and impress upon people all the time, is this is like a lot of things. It's a holistic situation to where you take this whole vision, you put it in place, and it creates. If you take bits and pieces, you're not going to get the full effect of what that whole vision was. You're going to get those bits and pieces, and it may not be nearly as productive as you thought it was going to be, and that's the big fear for us. So the tough conversation we've got to start having, and it's a blunt conversation, is if we look at it, what will happen to Stellar? In my opinion, Stellar goes away. And the reason I would say Stellar goes away is because everyone he surrounded himself with, all of his supporters, are people who either don't like Stellar or who don't understand Stellar. So what's the result of that going to be? There's going to be pressure to kill Stellar. And now, where that gets confusing is the fact that he sits on the council. Right now, my opponent sits on the council. He's voted 97, 99. We can debate the numbers. But he has voted for Stellar and everything related to Stellar to move forward. But his base is all pushing to stop Stellar. So we all know that when that happens, there is going to be a push to do what your voters have asked you to do, and that will be to kill Stellar. I personally believe in Stellar. I believe in the plan. And more than that, I believe in the plan because I don't see another plan. I just see, why don't we just kill that? I don't see any other options being offered out there. And I think that it is a sign, and it's the first sign, that people are willing to invest in our community. They've shown they're willing to invest in the community. And this is a clear indicator that we don't want investment. And I think that we do want investment. And so I think the choice is clear. If you like what we're doing and you like the direction, there isn't a choice in this election.
The past couple of shows, we've had the opportunity to meet two of the city councilman candidates who are running beside you on the I Like Mike team. We've met Mike Dobbin-Speck, the District 2 city councilman candidate, and Bob Bridges, the at-large candidate. You mentioned Elton earlier, and we have Elton here today, who is our District 1 candidate for city councilman. So tell us a little bit about Elton and why you asked him to be a part of this team.
Elton was a candidate that taught me the word patience, because first conversations with Elton, there was a lot of logistics we had to go through because of his position, the position he holds at the bank, but we felt like it was well worth it because he brings a real level of expertise that we felt like the team needed. The people who know Elton, everybody that knows Elton likes Elton and he's a laid back guy. Super intelligent, takes things, absorbs things very quickly, and we felt like that was an extremely important thing for our team to become well-rounded. And so we were patient, we waited, and Elton was able to get the approval, and so we were more than excited to welcome Elton to the team. And so at this time, I'll turn this microphone over to Elton.
All right, at this time, we'd like to welcome our District 1 City Councilman candidate, Elton Marzon, to the show. How you doing, Elton?
Hey, doing well. Thanks for having me, Mason.
Yep, no problem. Thanks for being here. Tell us a little bit about yourself, why you're running for City Council, and how you can be an asset on the I Like Mike team.
Sure. So, first off, I think this has just really been an exciting time to live in Rushville. I grew up here, first generation immigrant with my parents had come here in the early 70s. My mom was a nurse. She was sort of recruited by Miller's Mary Manor, and that's sort of how we landed in Rushville. I know firsthand what sacrifice and hard work can do and result in. I mean, imagine leaving a country and a place, your loved ones to start fresh. And I've just been so blessed that place has been Rushville. It's funny, growing up in high school, sort of the thing we want to do is get away from town as quickly as we can. But now that I am married, have a growing child in middle school, there is not a better place to live and reside and work. I'm a firm believer that action speaks louder than words. Mike and his administration have done a great job being proactive, not reactive. And as you drive through downtown, it really is change and progress that you can see, feel, and visit. And I just really want to be part of the decision making to make Rushville a better place for our families currently, but for future generations.
Awesome. What would be maybe a goal that you have if you were elected to city council?
Just really being a good, strong voice for my district, District 1. Again, this is, a lot of the neighbors and families and people that I knew growing up, riding my bike through town, to be able to support them and to be that voice to try to get things done that makes Rushville a progressive, happening place.
Why did you choose to join the I Like Mike team?
I think it's a well-rounded team. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the saying, Mason, that a rising tide lifts all the boats. This term is typically associated with the idea that improvements in the economy, Rushville, will benefit all the participants in the economy or community. I think of this also being collaborative, and I feel myself as an individual, I could collaborate well with these gentlemen. Mike has worked effectively with community partners, lenders, residents, and resources that have driven results. I think a really good example of this is the Carroll Jenkins Park. It's a multi-year project that upon completion will be something that the community can enjoy for years, will help educate, promote unity, and really honor the life of a special Rush County resident. I want to be part of projects such as that makes Rushville a great place to live.
Well, Elton, we appreciate you stopping by and joining us. Is there anything else you'd like to tell the voters?
Yeah, I mean, really it's just been such an overwhelming positive response for me since I've announced running for city council. I just ask everyone to, in the community to please rally around our team. I truly believe in each and every single one of them, and that we'll all work together to do the very best for Rushville.
I'd like to welcome back Mayor Pavey. Mayor, what else would you like to share with the crowd?
Really, I want to thank Elton. Elton's been a great team member, like all the others. I want to tell him thank you, appreciate his time coming by and at least talking and letting people get to know him a little bit. As we close out this episode, I think it's important to clearly ask is, I need your vote. In order to continue as the mayor of Rushville, continue the progress we've had, I have to clearly ask the people to go to the polls and to vote for Mike Pavey. So that will be the last thing you hear me say, and now we'll just turn it over to you to do the closing.
Awesome. Well, that's all for this edition of the Why I Like Mike podcast. Until next week, please like and share this podcast with your friends and family on Facebook. Visit the Vote Pavey for Mayor Facebook page. And this public awareness podcast has been brought to you by the I Like Mike Election Committee.